What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Fatherhood Unscripted. It's DJ and Alec, and today we have an amazing guest, Pauly Long, father of two with one on the way. Um, Pauly, thank you for being on the podcast today. Very amazing guest to have you on today. Can you tell us about yourself and your life a little bit?
Sure, sure. Thank you much. Yeah, my name is Pauly Long. I live in Bali, Indonesia. I'm from the Philadelphia area originally, and I'm 32 years old. My wife and I are having our third child in April, and that'll be three under three. So it's been a while. We're working. We're working.
Yeah,
We're building the tribe. But yeah, I am a social media influencer, content creator, whatever you want to call that. Um, and I'm in the works of building a couple of businesses around that. It's been a blessing to be able to do that and, have the freedom to be around my kids and also being in Bali as well. I have two nannies to help out so that we're not constantly, chasing heads. Like you were saying here a second ago when we were chatting. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna let you guys ask me the questions. That's me. I'm just a dad, a dude, a husband, a father, just trying to work out and keep my body strong, my mind strong, my faith in God strong, and be the best father husband I can be.
awesome. Well, a little bit about me and DJ. So, I have two. He has three. I have a 7 and 8 year old. My son will be 9 in March. Yeah. Um, and we both grew up in the church, so we love are a man of God, and we grew up in the church. We were talking about our last episode. We both play music, and we both used to play together on the worship team years and years ago. And so recently on Thanksgiving, we finally got to play again together. So that was really cool. Um, but yeah, kind of the same boat. We've been pushing this podcast for. We just started year anniversary in July,
Nice.
and this is episode. I think it's 48 now.
Congrats.
Which is cool. Yeah, because most podcasts, we were looking at statistics and stuff a while back, and like most podcasts don't hit like 10 episodes.
There you go.
Um, so we're pretty proud of that. DJ, want to talk about yourself a little bit, man?
Yeah, no. Like Alex said, three kids. My oldest is 4. The twins are 2. So it's a whirlwind, but as you can probably attest, Pauly, it's exciting and can be nerve wracking all at the same time. You having your third on the way, and just having kids in general is like you never know with each kid what their personality is going to be like, or what challenges that you may face, and it's a journey, and we just wanted to obviously make this podcast because all fathers are on journeys, and every journey looks different, and so how you parent is a direct result of how life has been for you, and you take all those experiences, and whether positive or negative, and you can turn it into a positive, or you can be completely negative, and it completely shapes the person you are and the parent you're going to be. And so yeah, I mean, if you want to start off on talking like how life has kind of prepared you maybe potentially for being a dad, or if it didn't, how you were able to kind of navigate those challenges.
Sure. Yeah. Good question. Um, well, my boys are 2 and 1 right now. Um, so my first was born in June of 2022. Um, I was 30, and at the time I was 29 when my wife got pregnant, who was not my wife then. She was my girlfriend. Um, so I was not prepared to have a kid at all. We had just started dating in January. We met the tail end of December 2020, and we started dating in January 2021, about a month later, officially. And then we got pregnant like the very end of September into the beginning of October, and found out, I think, the first few days of October. Um, and I'm super open with my life, so I think the darkest stories are what make the brightest lights in other people's lives. So I always tell everything. So for those of you listening to right now, my I broke up with my wife. She was my girlfriend. I ended it. 3 days later, she finds out she's pregnant. So we're like, whoa, right? And it was serious. Like I really I was like done. I was like done, because we got in a fight and that was it. And it was like a lot of times, and I said, hey, if this happens one more time, I'm gonna break up. So it happened. We got in a fight, broke up. I was standing strong. She's crying, freaking out, and then 3 days later, she's like blowing up my phone, texting me pictures of pregnancy tests, and I'm like, whoa, So here I am, 29 years old. I'm living in Bali. I'm trying to figure out myself. I'm broke. I'm like broke as a joke. I got nothing going for me. I hadn't even gotten like famous on social media yet, like at all. That didn't even happen until about 6 months after we found out we were pregnant. That's when everything took off in social media. So yeah, I mean, here I am, like trying to find my way. I don't even have a real business. I'm just doing like a little bit of, affiliate marketing here and there, making the bare minimum, thinking that all I got to do is provide for myself and, take my girlfriend out to eat once in a while, So yeah, I get pregnant, and so that was a whirlwind of emotions. Pretty much that entire month of October in 2020 or 2021, just a whirlwind of emotions, trying to figure out where to go next. It was like, do we get back together? Do we co-parent? Of course, us not really understanding what the heck to do with life. Of course, the conversation, I hate to admit it, but of abortion came up as well, because we're just talking about every possible option. You know what I mean? And so it was scary. It was scary. It was terrifying. It was emotional. It was just like, holy shit, like what is happening, and so yeah, it was like a few weeks, 3, 4 weeks of just like back and forth. Like she was trying to get back with me, and then she's like, all right, I'm done. And then I start to feel this like gravitational pull towards her, and I'm like, hey, I miss you. Let's talk. And she's like, no. And then it's like, do we keep it? Do we get an abortion and part ways? Do we stay together, or do we have the kid and co-parent? Do we make it? It was just nuts. So that was when I just kind of like, and not to mention as well, around this time, I had also lost my faith. So I also grew up in the church. Like my mom had me in the church, I think at like 4 years old. And I was like Bible study every Thursday, service every Sunday. All my pastor lived in the church. So the church was attached to his house, and he had 3 boys. So they were like my best friends. So I was like literally playing in the basement of the church, because they had like the kids area set up in there. He ran Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts in there. It was like, I literally grew up in the church. So it was just always kind of like something that I accepted. So when I grew up and I went through my own path, and then I saw the way my mom was going through her struggles, and she's like the devout Christian in my life who, thank God she was. She's pretty much the biggest reason as to why I was saved. But like, I started to see her going through her own struggles in life, and that made me kind of be like, oh, like Christian, you're just like falling on Jesus too much. Your life's in shambles, and I kind of like fell out because of that. Plus, my wife is a born Muslim, into a Muslim family, and so I was just, yeah, at that time I just kind of had lost my faith as well. So I was a mess. I had no idea what was going on in my life, and yeah, something started speaking to me again, which I really believed was God. And I think getting pregnant with my son, Vanya, my wife, I think Vanya getting pregnant with our son King was the first step to me really becoming a man, not only a man, which is funny because I'm sure you guys can agree, we're all boys until we have kids, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
you turn 18, you're a legal adult, but you're not a fucking man, dude. You're a
Yeah,
boy. You're a boy
yeah.
until you have a kid. That's when you become a man.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and I always think it's funny when I see all these like alpha male entrepreneurs on Instagram, talking about men, but they don't have kids. I'm like, dude, you're just a tough guy boy,
Mm.
But so yeah, not only having my first kid was like me really becoming a man, but it was definitely, I think, the first push to me becoming a man of God. Um, because I felt something. I remember back in 2021, I was on this trip. I was doing a content collaboration. I had some followers back then, but not a lot. And I was like friends with another influencer who had a bigger following. He like landed a collaboration with some resort here in Bali. And he's like, hey, come along. I told them you were coming with me too. So they gave us like a better villa. But I was like, all right, whatever. And this is a time where my wife and I were like trying to figure out what we were doing. And I remember being on this collaboration. I remember sitting there in the villa and texting her saying, I can't do this. We need to co-parent. I can't be with you, blah, blah, blah. And literally the next day, I woke up and we went home and I got to my place and I was like, no. I was like, no. Backstory for me, so you guys understand as well. My parents split up when I was 2 years old. I have no recollection of them ever being together. No memory. I have zero memory of my parents being together. It doesn't exist in my realm, in my existence. Okay. So I have no idea what that's like to see my mother and my father together. I have no images. I don't even remember them like standing in the same room at all. You know what I mean? So that was my life. My mom took me, went to Connecticut. My dad stayed in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Connecticut for like 8 years until I was 10. Then I was like from the Philadelphia area. And I only saw my dad once every 3 weeks for 8 years. For 8 years, I only saw him once every 3 weeks. Because what would happen is on Friday, I get done school, and if it was the weekend to see my dad, my mom and I would get in the car right away, go from Connecticut to Jersey. We'd meet at this rest stop. I switch cars, hop in my dad's car, drive back to Pennsylvania. By then it's 7, 8 o'clock. I'm a kid. I go to bed. I eat,
Right.
I eat and go to bed. Right. Wake up Saturday, spend Saturday there, morning and night. Go to bed. Get up Sunday. Go out for breakfast like we always did. Have our bagels or whatever, and then that afternoon, around 12 o'clock, we get in the car, go back to Jersey, get in my mom's car, back to Connecticut. It's time for school the next day. I go to bed, and then I wouldn't see my dad for another 3 weeks. So every third weekend we did that, and then I would spend the summer with him. So then I wouldn't see my mom for 2 months every summer. So it was just a fucked up scenario for 10 years of my life. And so all this starts swarming. I'm going home and I get home, and as the next day, and it starts swarming in my head of like, I'm about to literally fall into this this is a generational curse about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be, because my mom's parents, my grandpa and my grandmother passed away many, many years ago, but they have 5 kids, one being my mom. And then they split up. And then my dad, his parents, my papa and my Mimi, papa passed away a long time ago. They split up and my dad was 10. So I'm like, here I am, like about to be the third generation. And of course my parents, the third generation of this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no. And I had this like massive epiphany. I have like goosebumps right now. Think about it. I had this massive epiphany where I'm like, this is not, I'm breaking this right now. I'm breaking this right now. And it didn't even feel right at the moment. Cause I'm like, in my heart, I'm like, I really don't feel like I belong with the mother of my unborn child. I don't feel like it's right. But at the same time, I feel something telling me to do it. And that was like, I'm like, that feels like God speaking to me right now. And I'm like, I don't necessarily feel like it's Jesus or not, but I just feel like there's a higher power telling me that I need to go fix this. Texted her right away. I said, we need to meet right now. And we met up at this little cafe we used to go to on the beach. And I sat down and I was like, we need to make this work. And she just like was silent. And I was like, we're not doing this. I'm not co-parenting. I'm definitely not going to be like awkward, and we're like drop our kids off at the car like my parents did. You know, I'm like, we're not doing this. I was like, I don't know how I feel about you right now. I don't even know how I feel about myself. I don't know how I feel about God. I don't know how I feel about anything. I'm lost. Mm-hmm. But what I do know how I feel about is having to watch this kid grow up, never even seeing his mother and father ever together if we're already apart by the time he comes out. I was like, we're making this work. I was like, I know I love you as a person and I care about you. I just don't know what's going on with us right now. And that was like the start of like saving my entire life right there. And I really credit that to God, because I really feel like Jesus was talking to me back then. And so that was like me, basically. That was like, I felt like I became a man that day. was like when I really became a man. I really like took control of my life and was like, I'm not allowing this generational curse to take over once again, a third time. No, a third time. Like, fuck that, dude. You know what I mean? Because I'm like the black sheep of my family. I'm the one who went off and did some crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like, no one in my family has ever done anything even remotely close to what I've done with my life right now. You know what I mean? Like living in Bali, starting a family overseas, 2.6 million followers on social media, building my own brands. Like nobody's ever done this ever. Like all my family is in America, you know? So I'm just like, dude, I'm the one that needs to break this curse. And all my aunts and uncles, except for one, no, two, except for two, all my other aunts and uncles, all same thing. Like divorce is just like running rampant, you know, through my whole family. So yeah, that was like the day that I really felt like I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing right now, but I feel in my heart like this is the right thing to do. And it took time to heal the traumas and the damage that was done to our relationship, my wife and I, through many different things. There was some stuff, you know, that happened, and it took a lot of time for me to repair that, to gain her trust back that I betrayed and broke, um, and to really actually fall in love with my wife. It took me some time, and I don't even think it happened until about the beginning of 2022. So about a few months later, you know, we start dating again. And then like, I slowly started to realize like, I was like, this is my person. I'm really like understanding why we need to be together. And then it just kept happening and progressing. And of course it hasn't been easy. I mean, we've had brutal fights and arguments and we've had our ups and downs but it just comes down to an understanding, you know, and a very deep understanding of like, what do you want? What do you want in life? Truly, what do you want? You know, and it's like you need to distinguish that very clearly. And it's okay if you don't know like exactly what your life outcome is going to be, of course, because nobody does, right? I mean, we can always say what we want, but sometimes things change. That's life. It's not always going to be not always going to be exactly how you predicted, of course. But like to sit there and talk with each other and really like at least distinguish somewhat of a clear picture of like, what do you want? That now it's like, okay, now we understand. Now if we do get in a fight, we can remind each other, hey, look, we already talked about what we want. So if you wanna talk about divorce or I hate you or fuck you or whatever in the heat of the moment during an argument, just remember we already know what we want. Number one. Number two, fine. If we're gonna split up and freak out over a fight and go our separate ways, then it's going to be just as hard starting over with somebody else and having to build what we've already built. Where marriage, when you have like the growth mindset of marriage, it's a compound effect where it'll exponentially get greater and greater and deeper over time the more you work at it. And so this has just been like really the center point of my life the last 3+ almost 4 years is just being super patient and being okay with not being okay and being okay with not knowing what's next and trusting God, number one, and keeping your faith, and then just trusting yourself and trusting like the fact that everything's going to work out. And as long as you're a good person with good intentions and you remain loyal and you do your best to be a good person and be pure and act out of love and not anger and act out of forgiveness, you know, and not resentment. Um, all of these morals and everything that I'm talking about right now is really what has kept me going. Um, and that kind of is like what stems back to your original question of like, what have I learned and how have I been able to navigate all this? And it's just like, I wanted to tell that story for you guys and the listeners to really understand where we've come from. Cause it's like, and I didn't even give you guys all the details. I mean, there's some dark shit in there, some really dark shit, you know, seriously. It's just to hear it is like, whoa. But like, man, you're never ready.
Mm-hmm.
You're never ready, ever. And I laugh, I giggle, I chuckle when I hear some of my guy friends being like, "Oh yeah, we're not ready yet." Like I'm gonna like maybe when I'm like 35, I'm like, okay, yeah, because your fucking age knows exactly when you're ready, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
your birthday assumes, yeah, like that you just are ready for kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, 35, dude, you'll be fucking great. It's gonna be easy. Yeah, it'll be a walk in the park. You know, like okay, it's just funny, man. Like you're never ready. And if you want to plan for 32 or 35 or 28 or 42 or whatever, great. Well, guess what? New levels, new devils, man. You're going to have all new challenges by then that you weren't even aware of that were going to
Yep.
be part of your life. And you're thinking, oh, whatever I have now, I'm going to finish, complete, overcome, and get rid of before I have kids. That way everything's in the clear. Brother, you're going to have a whole new set of shit to deal with. But you know what I mean?
Yep.
By the time you reach that age. So
Yeah.
that's just been it. That's been like the whole, that's why we keep pumping them out. Because we're looking at each other going, wow, this is hard. Yeah. And it's like, hey, granted, look, I have it way better than most people. And I'm fully aware of that. Right. I get trashed and clowned on social media for every reason in the book that you could think of, because more followers, more followers, but also more followers, more haters too.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. That's the name of the game. But a lot of people will come at me and be like, "Oh, you have nannies. You don't even parent your kids." I'm like, bro, okay, you know what I mean? Like the nannies aren't the parents; they're the nannies. They're there to help. They're not there to take,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm aware that like it's a major life hack. It's a major cheat code, and yes, they do help out a ton. It's wonderful, and it allows me to build my life more. Which at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day is all for them. It's all for the kids. It's all for my wife. You know what I mean? Like I've become selfless over selfish, and that's really like that's my motto. That right, that's like my motto in life as a father is selfless over selfish. And it's like everything I do, sometimes I'll be on my phone, but like when I'm on my phone, I'm like working on like content, working through some deals, lining up endorsements, doing, talking to my manufacturers, distributors for that we're building a beverage. It's just I'm always there's never a dull moment. And so sometimes my wife will be like, "Hey, like try to be present." And a lot of times I'm like, "Yeah, you're right for sure. Like I need to just take a break and be present and be with the kids." But then there's other times where it's like, "Hey, listen, I don't want you to think that I'm just like over here looking at memes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is only for you and them. That's it. Like I don't care, dude. If I was just me, I would make 5 grand a month, live in Bali, surf, drink coconuts, and sit on the beach all day and do nothing. I'm good. It's just me. And I'd go to church and chill and relax. I wouldn't do anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? What do I need? I'm a guy.
Right.
I'm simple. you know, and go get myself a steak, go out for lunch, chill, right? Read a book. You know what I mean? I'm good. But like, I've got missions now. I've got people. I've got tribes. I've got shit to do. I'm working with a nonprofit here in Bali, and I'm doing a monthly food drop, and we're going to start building some homes soon. I mean, I've got missions, man. I'm cool with my
That's awesome.
pastor now. My pastor's a great dude. I've become friends with him, and we're talking about working together on some things and trying to help out with building a new church. So it's like I've got so much that I'm doing now, but like number one is serving God. That's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's like even when I'm on my phone, see everything's like a ripple effect, and it's all spider webbed, like a web chart. It's all spider webbed, and God is in the middle. You know what I mean? And it's like by serving, I'm like sometimes I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, by serving you and the kids, or by working and working and making money and providing and building these businesses and doing what I'm doing, it's so that I can serve you, and by
Mm-hmm.
serving you, I'm serving God, you know, and by serving you and helping your family and my family and other families in Bali and whoever I can, I'm still serving God. So it's like I'm always trying to like explain to my wife that like, hey, everything I'm doing is for a bigger purpose. It's never just like me on my phone. It's never just me trying to run away. It's never just me doing anything selfish, but I'm doing this all for a very big reason, and that is what keeps me going, and that is what that is what my faith in God is really what just helps me get through the times of like, I don't know what's happening next. I don't know where to go next. I'm not ready for anything. Sometimes I feel like I'm just kind of like tossing it up half the time, you know, and heads or
Yeah.
tails, whatever happens, happens. And just roll, just surfing on this wave of life, you know, like just going with it, man. But that's, that's really it, man. That's like, that's where I'm at right now in life, and I'm just figuring it out as I go. And for any dads listening to this right now, man, it's okay. You're good. You just find God and you serve God, and you build a good family based on good morals, and you feed them good healthy foods, and you take them to church. Or if if you're not Christian, it's okay, but try to at least find some sort of higher power that y'all can follow together, and you just be a good person. That's really it, man. You teach your kids good morals and good intentions, and hang out with them and spend time with them and build them up. And if you make mistakes, it's all good. I'm not a perfect dad. I've yelled at my kids, more times than I would like to. I've instantly felt guilty for so many things.
Hmm.
As soon as you do it, you're like, fuck, right? Like, oh, and you see that frown,
Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, I'm,
Hmm.
I'm a fucking Satanist monster, I'm like, I'm a devil, I'm a beast, I'm like, oh my God, what have I done, and then it's like, no, oh my God, I'm not, I'm a good person. And, you dads are good guys, and all you listening right now, you guys are good guys, you're good fathers, and if you mess up, it happens, but you just figure it out as you go.
Yep. Just kind of move on. So something cool, like you said, to go back in your story a little bit, like just breaking that generational curse. I can't talk. Wow. um, that's awesome. Just because kind of reflecting back on my own childhood, like my mom and dad, they met at a party, they hooked up at a party, and that's about the extent of their relationship.
Wow.
Yeah, they talk. Actually, I don't even think they talk. Like, there's no reason to talk about me now. I'm 33 years old, so it's like that's never been a thing. But like growing up, kind of not the similar where it was with my dad. I saw my dad like maybe once a year. Um, but I feel that, and then growing up and just breaking that generational curse, like your family doesn't understand because they're not going to put the time in to do what you've done, you know. And it does take a true man, a true strong person to break those generational curses and be the weird person and do what you've done, and it's awesome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely right. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, and being able to own your stuff too. Like, yeah, sure, you were shaped into the person you were, you know, by the environment that you grew up in. But when you become an adult, it's up to you to then say, do I want to continue this behavior or do I want to break it, like you were saying? And it takes a strong person to admit to and
Mm-hmm.
say, you know what, this is my own stuff that I need to deal with. It doesn't matter what somebody did to me. It's my stuff and I have to figure it out. And then when you have kids, it's like it's not just figuring it out for myself, it's figuring it out for them too.
Yeah.
Like I can continue this behavior and then they're going to be left with the same stuff that they're going to have to deal with when they get an adult, and it just might keep on going unless I'm willing to step up to the plate and, like you said, be a man and just own my stuff and break those generational curses and be better for them. And so,
Yeah.
it
Stop blaming
definitely,
me.
I mean, it wasn't easy
Mm-hmm.
for you,
Yeah.
it,
And
you
stop.
definitely, you made that hard decision to, okay, we're going to stay together and we're going to figure this out. The easy thing would have been figure out the baby yourself, which, I mean, is the American standard, unfortunately.
Yeah. It happens a
They'll
lot.
tell women like just go, yeah, just go figure out yourself.
I
It takes
mean,
two to
America,
tango, buddy.
America
So
loves divorce and co-parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the higher elites that run the world who want to break up the family dynamic, turn everyone gay, turn everyone to Satan instead of Christ. I mean, it's obvious, right? They love that shit. But also, you got to figure it's a business. divorce
Yeah.
divorce lawyers. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy, right? So yeah,
right,
I mean they love that shit. But what was I going to say? Yeah, the other thing to piggyback off that is stop blaming your parents. You know what I mean? I held a lot of resentment towards my parents and mainly my dad. I mean, a lot of it, there was things of my mom, of course, but the majority of it came from my father, who's a wonderful person. My dad is just, he's a soft, sweet guy. He's the most, affectionate, like sentimental guy I've ever known in my life, who I believe is what gave me that just ability to love my children and my wife the way I do.
Mm.
And I'm forever grateful for that, And it took me to having a kid to realize that I used to be mad at my dad because I felt like he never helped me in any way. I felt like, in terms of like taught me useful shit. Because my dad was always like classic, just do as I said so. Why? Because I said so. And then get good grades in school because that's what matters. And then I started growing up and realized that all the shit my dad told me didn't really matter. And then I'm watching him, like he was a successful freelancer copywriter. Not nothing crazy. He probably made 250, 200K a year, but that, for the average dad is well above the standard. And, he did fine for a long time. But then as I got older, his business started tapering off like the last 5 to 7 years. And now it's, barely anything. And so it's like the roles started reversing, as I stepped into entrepreneurship, which was in 2019. That's kind of when all his shit started tapering off. So now the past 5 years, we've flip flopped, and then also having kids and becoming a father myself. It's so funny, man. So much of the shit that I used to get mad at him for, I'm now getting mad at my kids the way that he got mad at me, and I'm going, oh my god, I fucking get it now. I fucking get it. What's funny, man? Is like, dude, becoming a dad has strengthened my dads and my relation. I could cry. I'm holding back tears right now, man. Shit. Fuck. It's getting to me, dude. It's I know you guys know what I mean. Fuck. Yeah. That's a tough one because you grow up and and you're like, why? Like, why is he like this? Why is my mom, my dad, whoever you go through these struggles with, you're like, why are they like this? Fuck them, right? Like, because you're this ignorant fucking shithead teenager and you don't know anything about life yet, and you
Yep.
blame everything. And then, man, you have the kids and you go, holy fuck, I get it now. I get it now. And there's been so many moments that I've texted my pops the last couple of years and be like, dude, I love you. I get it. And I tell him, I'm like, King just did this, or Bonnie, being, not just being a dad, but being a husband, and it's like, yeah, it's just been so many moments, I've texted him and be like, dude, I totally get it, man. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship has just strengthened so much the last couple of years, which has been really cool. And I've been able to let go of like so much resentment and just forgive, just because you said you guys are in the church. I mean, that's like the ultimate level of what Christ is like love and forgiveness, And so it's like, that's been a huge part for me, too, of like my journey back to Christ, is like learning that forgiveness. Cause I just lived in anger and resentment for a long time in my life. And it came out on everybody, and that's probably why my wife and I struggled for so long. And, as I kept every year, we've been together since 2019, 2020. So it's coming up on what, 5 years now. Holy shit. So it's like, or 4 years, sorry, 4 years. But yeah, every year we progressively get stronger as a couple. And every year I've obviously progressively got better as a father. Even like, I mean, I'm only 2.5 years in, of fatherhood, but I look back on myself, when my firstborn was born, and I'm like, what, like, who are you, dude? What are you doing? You fucking idiot, right? Like, what are you doing? I want to go back and, like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Man, you learn so much. You learn so much, and so just going back on what I said at the beginning of this is like, don't blame your parents for everything. because that's also, it's just a continuous cycle, man. We're all kids. Even, you know what I mean? Parents are kids. They're children
Mhm.
of their parents, and
Yep.
we're all just children of God. And we have an age, we have a limit to life. This life does end at some point. And so, yes, you get older by the day, but you're still a child, at the end of the day, and you're still learning. Everyone's always learning. And I'm like, it's like the older I get, the more I realize, like, my parents are just kids, they're just freaking kids trying to figure out life still. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, that's all it is. And it's all it ever is. And to sit there and blame them for what they learned from their parents and all the traumas that they went through, which my parents had it fucking way worse than I did, both of them in their childhood. I mean, some messed up shit happened to my parents, really messed up shit, so it's like, to sit there and blame them for figuring it out as they go, just as I have been, is like, what's it going to do? Whereas now there's actually peace. And it's like,
Mhm.
why would I not want to enjoy these days with my parents in the most peaceful, loving manner as I possibly can? Which obviously it's still not perfect. Sometimes I'll have some little minor something with my parents once in a while over whatever, and
Yep.
the next day we're good. I mean, it is what it is, right? But like, why would you choose to live that way and
Right.
still say, oh, well, my life turned out this way because of my mom, because of my dad, because of the way? It's like, no, dude, you moved out, or you have your own family, or you have a job, you're an adult, you pay your bills. What are you still doing blaming them? I mean, dude, if you're locked in the basement with a fucking chain around your foot and you can't get out, yeah, call the cops, right? But like, you're an adult now. It's time to cut the imaginary umbilical cord that you've still attached yourself to your parents, because it's no longer there, and you are to blame for your outcomes of your life at this point.
Mhm.
So you either grow up, sack up, take responsibility, and make the changes that you need to make to live the life that you want to live. And especially if you're a parent, to not affect those around you in such a negative manner, or you don't and you affect those around you in a negative manner. And now your family has to pay the consequences for you being selfish over selfless instead of selfless over selfish.
Mhm.
So stop blaming, just figure out a way to make peace with what's already happened. Forgive, which, if you don't know how to forgive, find God, he'll show you. And you're going to have a better life at that point.
Yep.
When you can parent without parenting the way that you you experienced, and now you're going, oh, well, I had to deal with this as a kid, so now I'm going to make my kids deal with it because I had to. No, you fucking selfish dick. Don't do that, right?
Yeah.
That's fucked up,
Mhm.
you know? Or, dude, you need to be a warrior. You need to be a soldier. You take the bullet,
Yeah.
and you
Yep.
do it right. That's it. You already took the bullets. Doesn't mean you gotta sit there and shoot the kids now. Like, fucking be a hero. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No.
move on, right? And that's, dude. That was like the first year for me. Was like, I literally, and I'm just being honest with you. I literally screamed at my firstborn when he's like 2 months old, and it's, just first parent, no sleep, losing my mind, no nanny, just
Yep.
us,
Yeah.
losing my mind. I mean, literally, like, just delirious, 3 o'clock in the morning, screaming, "Ah!" And then it's like it happens, and I'm like, oh my god, what demon was that? Because that
Mhm.
was me. You know what I mean? It's like, that wasn't me at all. And you instantly, your heart sinks if you have morals, if you have heart. Some people are just, ugh, some people are messed up, right? But like, for me, I'm a good person, and when I did that, it's like, oh my god, I feel terrible. This is awful. I don't want to
Mhm.
do this. And of course, it wasn't the only time. I mean, like I said, it happens, but it's like every year I'm just getting better and better, and I'm yelling less, and I'm being less hard, and then I have my second kid, and then you have your second kid, and you go, oh my god, it's not just the first kid. It's all kids. You know?
Yeah.
That shit that he was doing that was making me lose my mind. Here's my second one doing it too, and here's that parent's kid doing it too, and here's that parent's kid doing it too. So it's not just my kid, right?
Yep.
Kids are just fucking kids. They're insane. They're like drunk midgets running around your life, not having any idea what to do. So you just gotta roll with it and do your best to not freak
Yeah.
out. And every time you yell or you be too hard on them, that shit twists around their neurological buildup and messes them up, and that's how you create trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, man, that's like, dude, when you forgive your parents and you do your absolute best to act in love and in joy rather than anger and resentment, that makes like such a massive difference, such a huge difference. It's crazy. It's night and day. I was really
Mm-hmm.
really angry the first year of of my kid of King being born, my firstborn. And it's not like I was just like always pissed off, of course, right? Like I've lived so many beautiful memories, more good than bad, right? But like, but there was frequent, episodes of me just being this angry, stressed out dad, the typical like, oh, angry dad, and it's like, and then what also like helped me in the worst way possible was hearing, as my firstborn got older and started to be able to comprehend shit right around, when they're like 10 months to 12 months is kind of when they start really getting more like comprehensive. And that's when you start really like talking to them more. And my wife would be like, don't do that, dad. It's going to get angry. And I'm like, what kind of asshole am I that like, that's the new thing. Like, oh, don't do that, or else dad's gonna get angry. And that's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a threat now. Ugh. I'm hearing that, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, hey, don't say that anymore. I'm gonna get better. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get better,
Mm-hmm.
and I have. And I'm not perfect, but it's like you really have to be conscious about it, like super, super, super conscious about it. And you have to be intentional as well. Like you have to be intentional about getting better, or if you are doing something wrong, you have to be intentional about not doing it, and like keep that intention top of mind as frequent as possible. And it's not easy. Like it's really hard,
Yeah.
especially when you're a father and you're
Mm-hmm.
working and you're providing and you're trying to be, not only a good father but a good husband, because your wife has all these needs as well, and your kids are demanding your attention, and that your fucking boss or your job or whatever, or your business or whatever you do,
Yeah.
needs your
Yeah.
attention. And then you're also trying to like, fucking stay in shape and like, practice your faith, and you're trying to keep up with your personal development, and you're trying to get sleep in the meantime. I mean, it's like, when do you even sleep with all this to do? It's crazy, man. The balance is wild. That's been the biggest struggle for me is time optimization, time management. For me, that's the hardest part of fatherhood. 100% is the time, is the balance. There's no right answer. There's no
Yeah.
there's no there's no perfect balance ever. It doesn't exist.
No.
You will always have a win-lose ratio, always, because with
Mm-hmm.
whatever you win with, you lose with the other. There's no perfect balance, ever. It just won't happen. So you pick and choose, and you do your absolute best, but you have to be
Yep.
intentional with everything you do. Because if you're not intentional about something, you don't set your intentions, then it just kind of floats away, and you just kind of drift and you coast, and things get swept under the rug, and you don't keep it top of mind, and then that's how shit starts falling apart. So be super intentional with everything that you do, and live in love and forgiveness towards not only your parents but yourself and your spouse and everyone. And that's going to make the biggest, most massive change ever in your family dynamic.
100%. Yeah, we've talked a little about that in the past. Just that most dads don't have that grace for themselves, and you gotta have it. Like when you become a parent, like you don't know what kind of world you're going into. Like
No,
becoming a parent's a whole different ballgame from just
right.
being a normal person. But yeah, taking that time and just taking that moment to breathe and having grace to yourself is such a hard thing to do. But once you start to do it, you can step back and realize, okay, I got mad, but making that change, like you're saying, that's the hardest step, and being intentional about it is very hard. And that's why a lot of people do just, oh, I'm just not going to do it, and parenting, give up,
Right.
But
It
it's
takes
a
work.
super hard job. Yeah.
It takes work, man. Yeah,
Hmm.
the mental grind of being a successful parent and a successful husband or spouse. Yeah, the mental grind
Yep.
is more than the physical grind, in my opinion.
Hmm.
To be honest, like you can push yourself physically pretty far, but the mental thing to keep it like to keep yourself on point mentally is like whoa.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not getting good sleep and you still got to work and you still got to do this and you're like, oh my god, my head's spinning right now. That for me, like one of my best ways to cope is just to grab my kids and hug them and kiss them. Especially when he's the one who's like making my head want to fly off like a fucking jetpack. I'm like, dude, come here. I'm like, come here. Just shut your mouth and give me a hug right now.
Hmm.
You know, just hug him and kiss him, and that's the reminder of like, oh yeah, that's right. This is the greatest thing ever. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It is. There's nothing that beats being a dad. It's like the best,
Yeah.
It's the worst and the best thing ever, but it's the best. And
Hmm.
you got to do what you got to do to remind yourself of how beautiful it is, and how blessed you are to be a father. And in those moments where you're like losing your shit, just grab your kids, give them a hug, tell them you love them, and it'll like bring you back down to earth when you feel like you're about to float away.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I know. I like that you brought up the mental battle because you'll have a long day, and if you're not careful with how you're spending your mental energy, you will be tapped out at the end of the day. But the thing, like you said, just that reminder, our kids, they look forward to dad coming home or spending time with dad if they're at school all day and they come home. Like that's one thing they're thinking about. Like, both parents really. And so when they get home and dad's just tapped out looking at his phone or doing whatever, watching sports or
Yeah.
because they're mentally tapped, it's the kids like, wow, like I've spent all day thinking about dad, but it
Yeah.
seems like dad hasn't spent a second thinking about me.
Yeah.
Even though like what you were doing may have been for them, in that moment it doesn't feel like anything is for them. It just feels like dad
Doesn't
doesn't
matter.
really care
Doesn't
about
matter to
them.
the
Yeah.
kids. they
No.
don't give
Doesn't
a
matter at all.
shit, what's funny about that? I had to say this now because you said it. My son King, he's 2.5 about. Yeah, literally about 2.5, 2.5. And he's now at the point where sometimes I'll be on my phone in the living room sitting on the couch he walks up to show me something, but I'll be like, going through my emails or whatever. This is like where I work. It's just like a spare bedroom. So I have like my desk here or whatever.
Right.
So I'll be up here to work. Like when I'm really like doing a lot of stuff, I'll come here and work. But a lot of times, like, I like to stay in the living room and just do small stuff on my phone, just so I can at least be around the kids, even if I'm like working. But he'll come up and show me something. And there's sometimes where if I don't answer him right away, he will literally go like this. I'm not even joking right now. So if this is me on my phone, like, and this is his hand. Oh, like this. He'll go, Dada, no, no, Dada, no phone. And he'll like literally like push it away. And it just like wakes me up. I'm like, oh, okay, like phone down. Like, all right, what's up? Like, Dada, no phone. Dada, no phone. And like shoves it, like absolutely rejects me. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, that's right. You're the boss.
Yeah.
you know. And that's true, man. It's like they'll give you clues. They'll give you the clues and they'll give you the hints, and you've gotta respond in time. Because if it gets to the point where you do it too often, you're gonna lose them, and that's the scary
Yep.
part. That's really scary. That's like, bro, my biggest nightmare is like my kids not having interest in me. That's like my biggest nightmare ever. You know what I mean? And there's been some times where like, dude, this was a rough moment for me. Like it just happened like a month ago, and it was like that exactly where we were in bed and I had something with work that like I had to get done. It was like really important that like I had to do it before the night was over, and I was trying to get it done then before we like put him to bed, because that's sometimes like an hour process. And then by the time he finally falls asleep, I'm like deliriously, done for the day. So I'm like sitting there, saying like, okay, one second. And I kept saying like 1 second, 1 second. And he's like, da, da, da. And then, I kind of like snapped. I didn't like freak out, but I was like, King, just wait a second. And when I did that, and the aggression in my voice, even though I didn't yell or curse or anything, it was just like, King, can you just wait a second? Kind of like a little bit angry.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he went full rejection towards me, and he and just leaned back against my wife like this, and just like I just felt, he literally felt so defeated and so sad and rejected by me. He rejected me because he felt rejected by me. And as soon as I like felt the energy drop, and I looked over, and the look on his face killed me. And dude, I put my phone down so fast. I almost threw it, I literally almost like threw it off the bed. I just like reached behind me and like put it on the nightstand, and just grabbed him, and he pushed me away. And I literally all of a sudden felt like I'm like this desperate dad trying to win back my son. And it was like for like 20 minutes I spent there. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Dad loves you so much. And he's like, no, go, let it go. Let it go. Angry, And I'm like, it's like every time he said it, it's like knife, 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 like dagger to the heart every time. And my wife's looking at me. She just like knew, like how bad that was. And she was just giving me that look, like not like, you should have done that, but like, you know what you did, and there's nothing I can say, like what, neither mad or happy or sad. She was just very like just watching it happen. She's like, there's nothing I can do right now. Like, and I'm like, yep, I know. I looking like we're speaking, telepathically. Of course, I'm like, yeah, I fucked up, yeah. And it's like right before he fell asleep, he finally came over and was like, Dad, a hug, and I was like, oh, thank God. Like, thank you God for those words, because if he didn't say those and fell asleep like that, like I wouldn't have slept that night. So right. It's like, dude, man, when you get those hints, when it's like when they're really asking for your attention, oh my God, unless you're like, I don't know, dude, unless like someone's life is on the line, just fucking forget it. Just fuck everything else. You know what I mean? Like, just whatever, dude. There's no amount of money or business that's more important than those moments. And then like in those moments too, like when that happened, it made me tear up, man. When he finally fell asleep, and I put him in his bed, and I crawled back next to my wife, and I just kind of cuddled up a little bit, and I started like getting teary eyed. She was like, "That was brutal, huh?" I was like, and it it just like reminded me again of like when I was a kid, that in that moment I thought about when I was a kid, and my dad was pretty good. My dad was pretty good about that, about like when he would work, he would always just let me, like, he worked from home a lot, like from a certain point in my life, I forget, maybe when I was like 10 or something like that. I think 10, 11, 12 was when he started freelancing. But I would always go into his office and like hang out because I just wanted to be with him, I just wanted to be around him. And he was pretty good about it for the most part. So that was really cool. But I do remember there was like a few times where he was like, sorry, dude, like you can't come in right now. I'm on a call. And it's like, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, that sucks. It's like the worst thing, you just want to be around your dad. And so it just made me think about those moments. And I'm like, my dad didn't have the freedom that I did. Yes, he worked from home, but it was just different, right? Like he's a freelance copywriter, working for agencies. Like I'm a fucking social media influencer making content, which is a very different life, So like I definitely have more freedom. So I'm like, if he could make it work and he like let me into his realm for the most part, while I'm working, or he's making time for me, or if I come into his office and I wanted to show him the little guitar riff that I wrote when I was 14 and thought it was cool, and he would stop his work and listen to me. And I'm like, how come I can't do this for my 2-year-old right now at 9:00 at night when he's trying to go to sleep? Like don't be an asshole, So that was like, man, I reflect on my childhood a lot, and a a lot of times too, I will also, both my sons look like me a lot. So it just, sometimes I'll see my face in my boys and I'm like, man, my son King, he actually, his face has a lot more similarities as my wife. It's funny, like, because my wife's Indonesian. So our firstborn looks very Indonesian. Our secondborn looks like a white kid. It's like no Indonesian at all. Even skin color too, like firstborn, like tan, second one's pale. It's just funny. But my firstborn has the exact same head shape. I've got this head extension back here, and and like the shape of our head, and then also I'm balding, I'm losing my hair. He for like the entire first year and a half of his life had this balding ring, and I'm just like, dude, I'm like, please God, give this kid hair,
Right.
right? But it's just funny. I just see so much of myself in my kids. So it's like when I upset my son, especially he's 2.5, like we're in the terrible twos. I mean, this is like emotional level 1 million, right? So it's like
Yeah.
when he gets really emotional and sad because of me, it's like I feel like I'm looking at myself as a kid, and I'm like, it's like heartbreaking. It's like, oh my God, like
Mhm.
I can feel this. I can genuinely feel this in myself. I can see this in myself. I feel like I'm looking at my younger self, heartbroken right now, and it's my fault. It's like, how can I do that? You know what I mean? So it's just like moments like that, man. Oh my God, you learn like so much, once again, as long as you have an intentional mindset about it, right? Because if you're just an absent dad, or you don't set intentions, and you don't care about becoming a better man, it's like, just because you're a father doesn't make you a better man. Like, you have to want to be it. But if you
Yeah.
want if you want it, and then you become a father, you're going to become a better man as long as you're intentional about it. So it's just, yeah, man, I reflect a lot on stuff like that, and I learn from it so much so fast, especially when moments like that go by, and I'm just like watching him. I see his face and I see his reactions, and it just makes me think like times a million of how I can be better, and how I can never do that again, or try my best not to.
Yeah. So I have a question. So you
Yeah.
got big eating raw meats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do your kids eat the raw meats?
Dude. So, so, King, we're on the news, man, me and him, for for eating raw bull testicles and raw liver and raw salmon together. Yeah, we almost had a TV station reach out to us and want to come do a film documentary at our house, but I declined it. But yeah, it's funny. So he loves raw animal testicles. Like, absolutely loves them. We actually just had it. We haven't had them in a while. Like, it's been a while. I've had some in my freezer, some goat ones for like months now. It's been sitting in the freezer. So I took them out yesterday, and we actually had some yesterday. Um, and he just loves it. He absolutely loves it. He's like, he wants to sit there and eat like 3 of them in a row. I'm like, dude, no, stop. And my wife was just looking at us like, what the fuck, like, she's like, you guys are sick. And so my 1-year old Thunder wanted to try it, and yeah, I gave him a bite, and he started chewing it, and he walked away, whatever, and then he like came back and spit it out, but it was in there, it was in his mouth for like, he's chewing it for like a good 10-20 seconds. So I don't know if that was like a first time shock type of thing, but I feel like he might go for it. But yeah, King's all about it, loves it. They both eat raw salmon with me. um King's had liver. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I mean, of course, this is a very controversial thing, and it's something that obviously ruffles the feathers of the masses. But but I would never do anything that I felt put my children in danger. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done
Yeah.
extensive research on this stuff, well beyond the typical surface level media, mass media type shit that's going to tell you otherwise. Of course, personally, I don't really believe anything they tell us in the surface level news, as no one
Hmm.
really should. But just reading a lot of like Weston A. Price and things like that actually give you like real documented information. Um, yeah, it's awesome stuff. I mean, we've never had problems. I've never had problems. My kids have never had problems with that stuff. Um, King's been drinking raw milk for a year and a half. Thunder, we just started Thunder on raw milk. My 1-year old. just a few weeks ago now, because he just turned one like a month, or turned one like a month and a half ago. So we just started him on raw milk recently. They're great. They're strong. They're healthy. They're good kids. Big boys. Yeah, it's awesome. It's good stuff. You just got to make sure you're getting it from a good source. You got to make sure it's stored properly. Obviously you're always going to run risk, right? But like if you're taking the basic precautionary, measures, you'll be fine. It's nothing to be scared of.
I don't know if I could do it. I've had I've had sushi and stuff like that, but I don't know if I could do I saw one of your videos was you had a brain, like a cow brain, I think.
Brain's fucking rough. So I've never enjoyed it ever. It's rough. That one's a content one. Like so, it's what. I've obviously I've I've done a lot, right, in terms of like social media content, and of course, there's always going to be some videos here and there, a couple here and there that I strictly do for views. More of that was in the beginning. Like when I first blew up, that was April 2022. And that was the video that did it was me eating raw goat testicles, which I didn't even plan on like being this big life-changing moment. It was just kind of like I had them because of like I made a YouTube here like 6 months before that in 2020 of like trying Indonesian foods. And one of the things on the list was supposed to be goat testicle satay grill. And they put the sauce and all this kind of stuff on them. Well, we couldn't find it. And the Indonesian lady who actually became our nanny for our first boy in the first year, she's no longer, but was, she was the one who ran out and got all the Indonesian foods. And so 6 months later, she texts me and she's like, "Hey, I found those goat testicles. Did you still want them?" And this was like 6 months after we made the YouTube. I didn't even really like do anything with it. And just like for shits and giggles, I was like, yeah, like why not? Like you actually found goat testicles? Fuck it, bring them. You know what I mean? Like, okay, So she brings them over and we try them and we're a few of us there, some friends, and everyone's laughing. And I'm like, I wasn't really active on TikTok. Like I was kind of like on and off, like a couple videos here and there, whatever. And I was like, I should make a TikTok of this. This was 2022. So, I mean, by now we're about 2.5 years into like prime TikTok, So I'm like, yeah, I should make a video about this. I've seen, Liver King doing all this crazy shit. And so I'm like, let me try it, right? If he's doing it, he's all shredded up and everything, let me give it a shot. So I was like, let me make a TikTok, posted that, and it like went viral overnight. And I was like, this is going to be something. And I was like, let me just keep going with these carnivore raw meat. Let me push the envelope and see how much I can do. And that's how it happened. And I just blew up. And so, of course, in the beginning, I was like strictly growth, like just growth content 24/7, trying to go viral every single video. And so I'm trying literally everything, dude. I've had like every organ you could think of, testicles, liver, heart, brain, kidney, pancreas, spleen, lung. I've had multiple different types of brains, eyeballs. I mean, like you name it, dude. I feel like I literally tried everything. I had raw pork, raw chicken, like all of it, and was fine, 100% fine. Never got sick from any of that stuff. What's funny is living in Bali, I've gotten food poisoning many times. Not once has it ever been from any of that. It's always been from restaurants, because like sometimes you get Bali belly, and it's like the oils they use or whatever bullshit they use, So yeah, it's just I ate all that kind of stuff. And then as my son was getting older, this was last year. This was like summer last year, like right around his first birthday. I was making a video on TikTok. This was like a year after I went viral. So he's like 1 now, and or back then he's 1. Yeah, I'm sitting there making a TikTok, eating like raw testicle and raw liver, and he's just like, he walks right out to me, before you talk, like asking to come up. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, come on up, and he sits there and he's looking, and he's just like, like pointing to it, like aggressive, like, and I'm like. And like my wife's in the other room, and she was always like, she's like, don't you dare give him that, And I'm like, I'm like, I feel like it's gonna be okay, And so I'm like, all right. I like cut a piece. I'm like, don't tell mom. And I'm making a TikTok. This TikTok got millions of views too. And I'm like, all right, don't tell mama. And I give him a piece of the testicle, and he eats it, and he just like his eyes got wide. He's like, I'm like, no way, no way, dude. You love me. You sick little bastard. I love you. I'm like, you're my son. I love you. Yeah, dude, it was funny, man. And just since then, he just loves it, dude. Absolutely loves it. I have a video somewhere on TikTok of him with the entire testicle in his hand, eating it like an apple. You know, kid's a savage, man. So yeah, it's once again, this was a lot of this stuff I learned was extensive research, but also from other guys that do the raw meat diet who are like strictly raw meat diet for years. I got a buddy on Instagram. We were just good friends on Instagram. He's been feeding his daughter raw beef liver,
Hmm.
raw a couple other things raw since she was like 1 year old, and she's now 4 and just like healthy as can be, happy little girl, prefers to eat it. Like he'll just like put it on the table and she's like, ooh, but liver. You know, like just loves it. Raw beef, raw liver, like just chomps it. So I'm like talking to him a lot. I'm asking him tons of questions, and he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, if they're asking for it, that's their instinct. That's like their innocent, blissful childhood instinct telling you that like that's what they want. And
Mm.
you got to understand too, like raw meat is in its purest form. Now, of course, there's different qualities. There's different types. Like, you go to Walmart and get some like red dyed, shitty beef that's been on the shelf for like, 2 weeks and has preservatives in it, and it possibly has some worms crawling through it. Yeah, like you're going to be in danger. But if you're getting like quality stuff from a good trusted source, raw meat's in its purest form, so it's still got all those really beneficial enzymes and
Hmm.
good bacteria in it and cultured bacteria in it. So you're like, as a child whose gut microbiome is still growing, which is why milk is so beneficial, especially breast milk or raw milk for a child is so beneficial versus pasteurized milk or powder, because pasteurized milk and powder has zero active enzymes in it. So raw milk has all the active enzymes and bacteria in it,
Right.
which is for a child the most beneficial thing, right? That's what's building their gut. That's what's building their brain. So when you eat raw meat, it's the same thing for a child whose digestive system isn't super built yet. Raw meat is like amazing if it's as long as it's good, because it's so easy for them to digest.
Hmm.
And that's a big reason why I eat it, because I've got digestive issues, GI issues, because I've abused my body over the years. When I'm in my 20s, I'm a fucking degenerate. Like I'm just a total degenerate in my 20s. I'm abusing alcohol. I'm eating junk food 24/7. I'm smoking weed every day. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
partying. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I wrecked myself. So now that's also why health is such a big mission for me, because of what I've done to myself, and I understand what all this shit we're doing to ourselves can do, as especially in America, how prevalent it is with just junk food and drinking and smoking and vaping and whatever. So, that's why I'm so passionate about stuff, but especially with my kids, it's like, dude, I don't want to see, dude, I was eating TV dinners and popsicles and sodas and all that bullshit growing up. That was my main
Yep.
diet. You know what I'm saying? Like I had some, Whole Foods, but barely. And if it was like, my parents making lasagna or you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like it was very rare that we'd sit down and have like chicken and vegetables and rice. And if we did, my parents both sucked at cooking, so the chicken was like sandpaper. You know what I mean? It was like,
Mhm.
so what would I do? I would smother it in ketchup and barbecue sauce just to get it down. Like, I couldn't even swallow it; it was so dry. So it's like I didn't grow up with like, you know what I mean? Any like good nutrients, man. I was just sitting there hyping myself up for dessert, trying to get through dinner, or eating pizza or Chinese food or whatever. So it's like, yeah, man, to have this opportunity now that I'm so aware, and I've just gained so much knowledge and wisdom and experience about the stuff, and I've done it myself and seen the effects versus, eating the other bullshit. It's like, yeah, if my kid wants to try some raw meat, I'm gonna let him. Absolutely. Yes. If he's like actually like, do you know how many kids don't even want to eat anything besides
Yeah.
chips and bread? You know what I mean? Like, dude, my kid wants to eat some raw testicle. Fuck yeah. I'm fired up, dude. I'm like, yes, let's go. I got you, boy.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you some good, fresh stuff. I'm not going to, it's like, you're good. I got you. I promise.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's healthy as can be, dude. My kid's smart as hell. For a 2-year-old, he's like the smartest kid. He's like, he'll sit, it rattles off the whole ABCs. He can count to 20 in English and Bahasa Indonesia, my wife's language. I mean, he's just like this smart little 2-year-old, man. Like his brain is just developing at rapid speed, and he's drinking raw milk. He's eating raw meats. He's doing his thing. Kid loves steak, you know. I'll get sushi, and it has the ikura, you know, those like nice salmon caviar eggs. He like loves ikura. He's like, that ikura. I'm like, how do you even know what that is? Like, you're 2, dude. You know, I was eating like chicken nuggets when I was your age, man. Like, you're awesome, you know. So yeah, it's great, man. It's great. You know, if you're gonna try any sort of raw meat stuff, just once again, what helps you do it? Because you said like you don't know if you can do it, right? And I get it. It's some of it's definitely a mental thing, but what helps you is the intention of understanding
Mhm.
why you're doing it. See, for me, like I'll crush something if I know it's good for me, right?
Mhm.
I'll crush it, no problem. If I know whatever I'm going to consume is going to very much benefit me and help me, it's so easy for me to get down. But if I feel like it's not going to help me, it's very hard for me to eat.
Yeah.
I'm all based on like nutrients. Of course, I enjoy some things for pleasure and
Yeah.
taste. You know what I mean? I'm not perfect. You know, my wife had this little collaboration with this company here that makes these like insane mochis, you know, like mochi ice cream things, but they fill them with like crazy stuff. I crushed like 3 of them. I'm not gonna lie. You know, like they were delicious. You know what I mean? But like when I'm eating stuff, I'm eating raw meat. Okay, I just had raw tenderloin for breakfast with honey and
Oh,
salt. That's
oh, I
obviously
saw your thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's not the most appealing thing. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a pile of raw flesh. Like it's not is that's like not super aesthetic. So it's not going to be like eating this big sexy cheeseburger, you know? But I understand how I feel when I eat that. I understand what it's doing for me when I eat that. And that fires me up, man. When I sit down,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm enjoying it because I'm like, dude, I'm feeling good right now. You know, so you just gotta have that intention of why you're doing it and not just doing it for views on TikTok, which is why the brain is so hard. Even though brain can have some really good benefits to it, there's actual really good properties of eating good quality raw brain, but obviously much higher risk of doing that. So for me, that one's I just get that's like a fear factor challenge. That's like a strictly I'm doing that for views type thing, you know. But yeah. Overall, raw stuff can be really really good if you get good stuff. You can.
For sure. Well, yeah. No, I first just want to say thank you for taking the time with us. I
Sure.
know you're busy, so
Very.
and you shared a lot of valuable things
Yeah.
for dads out there that they can take, and they're tangible. They're not just some people just give you they just fire you up. They don't really give you anything practical to run with, and so I just appreciate you being real and honest and giving those tangibles because that's really what's going to help people move forward and become the person they want to become
Of course.
versus just another person. It's like when you go to church, you're fired up for Jesus, and then come Wednesday, that fire is gone because you're not in the same environment anymore.
Yeah.
They didn't really give you anything practical. They just pumped you full of good feelings,
All right.
and then on Wednesday, you're just why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
You don't really have the why behind things, and so I feel like in this conversation with you, and I don't know, what Alec wants to add, but just in this conversation with you, it definitely has given that why behind everything, and that's the biggest thing that's really going to help people move forward. And so I just
Mhm.
appreciate you taking the time to have those conversations with us, and so that we can share it with
For sure.
fathers everywhere.
For sure, man.
Yeah. Like you said, thank you. And then just one last question is, what is one piece of advice you would give any new father or anybody thinking about becoming?
Oh, gosh, one, because I got a million. Uh, but one piece of advice for a new father or soon to be father is patience is probably the number one biggest thing. Patience. That's not only one piece of advice, but if I had to say it in one word,
Yeah.
would be patience. I mean, that's been the biggest learning curve for me, for sure, is patience. And that's like, God bless my wife who helps me with that a lot. She's wonderful. And, my wife, I'm 32, my wife is 24, but I learn a lot from her, even though typically I'm the one who's teaching everybody the most and sharing the most wisdom. She's got plenty of moments where she becomes the master and I become the student, and it's great because, especially as a father, right? Once again, it, when you're the provider, it's like you're living two lives at the same time. You know, you're living two lives. You've got your work stuff, business stuff, money stuff, bills, providing, all that shit. And then you've got dad time. You got to be a dad at the same time. You got to be there for them. You got to be loving. You got to be understanding. You got to be nurturing. You got to be, teaching. You got to be guiding. It's like, to do all that at the same time, all of a sudden now you're maxed out. So it's like any little thing can set you off at any moment. And it's
Mm-hmm.
understandable because it's really difficult to balance that. So just once again, being intentional about being super insanely patient with your children and your wife, because women are emotional creatures as well, right? Like, for the most part, men will operate off of logic, women will operate off of emotion for the majority of situations. It's just nature. And so to be the logic and to be the reason in a state of, fury and flame and craziness is like, that's your job. And that requires the utmost patience you could possibly stir up within yourself, um, with your wife, with your kids, when everything's going crazy, when wife is having a meltdown or she's freaking out or she's in a bad mood because she's just a woman and that's what happens, or when your kids are all screaming at the top of their lungs, throwing shit around, breaking things, and demanding everything that you could possibly think of all at the same time, and you're just like, bro, I'm just trying to sit on the couch for a second and breathe. Like, oh yeah, I forgot to breathe. It's like, okay, well, daddy's gonna basically explode right now. It's like if sometimes you feel like the cartoons with the volcano explosion out the head,
Yeah.
smoke coming out the ears, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, it's just patience. That's it. That's my biggest piece of advice. Um, is be patient with everything, and don't worry when you think like your kid is ridiculous, or like, oh my god, why is he or she like this, or spend so many of those moments. I'm like, why is he like this? And then it's like, I you know my wife will tell me like, oh my god, you think that's bad? Like, I heard this. My friend was telling me about her son the other day. Like, this is nothing, and it's like, it'll all get better as long as you stay grounded when everything
Mm-hmm.
else is flying above ground. You need to be the fucking rock as the dad. Because if you start losing your shit, right, as everyone else is losing theirs, and then you're the last one to lift off, and now you're all floating in space together, that's when shit starts going crazy. You know what I'm saying? So you need to have the patience to stay completely grounded when everyone else is fucking flying up in the air. And you are the one who needs to reach up, pull everyone back down, be the leader, and say, okay, look, relax, first of all, second of all, blah, 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 and take control and guide people. And also let your wife guide you if you do slip up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's really important that your wife or your spouse, your partner will be there to support and guide you along the way when you are not perfect, because we are not perfect. And when you do slip up, which it will happen, it's really helpful to have a good partner to back you up and remind you and say, hey, look, none, like, no, that's not good, or that's not right, or that's not
Yeah.
you right now, or whatever. you know that's really important too. But um, yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice, man. It's just slow down and let shit be sometimes. the fingerprints on the windows, the stains on the carpet, they're not as big of a deal as you think they are. Really, they're not. I promise you. Everything can be cleaned or washed, or if something gets ruined, um, you can get another one. I mean, it's not fun sometimes, especially if you buy something new and it's broken the next day. There's been plenty of those moments too. Where you're just like, how, like why, right? But I promise you, it's not as big of a deal as you think it is, and it will pass, and you'll look back and go, yeah, that's just life.
100%. Well, thank you for being with us. Is there any questions you have for us, or
You guys good? Y'all good?
yeah?
Let's do a quick little huddle here, man. A little dad.
I know, right?
You guys all right? You need anything, man? I feel like we should check in on each other as dads, dude.
Right? Yeah, we should.
Hey, you know what? I will say this. I'm building out a business right now. I've been very low key about it. Haven't talked about it much. A little bit here and there, but it's actually called Fatherhood, and it is a program for fathers. Where first thing we start with is getting in good shape, so you can get your mind right, be a good leader, and lead by example, and then that obviously will trickle down into everything else as well. So that's my biggest thing, and it's going to be like a community. It's going to be like a community program, with a lot. It's going to be very extensive. I'm building it out at the moment. It's still got a lot to go, but checking in and making sure you've got a good support system. Like if you're a dad, you should find another dad to be friends with.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's a good person. If one of your friends is a dad, but they're cheating on their wife and going out for beers with the boys every weekend, don't be friends with that dad. Pray for him, or try to get him to come to your side of life and say, hey, let's fucking get our shit together. Then great. If you can be there, if you can lead him. But don't ever let another dad lead you who's an absent, shitty father or a bad man or has, issues with their morals or, doesn't follow God or whatever. Like, find some good level-headed dads who are on the same path as you and trying to be better and have some sort of accountability system with each other and get together once a week and grab a coffee and talk about shit. Just this. You guys got me to cry today, man. You got me, and that's like, that just goes to show, like, I needed this, man. I needed you boys today, you fucking, I'm virtual hugging you boys right now, man. I am, but it helps. And it's like, all I'm doing is just sharing my stories with you guys. But it's like, it's cool. It's a win-win because I get to help whoever's listening to this. I'm going to definitely take away some value from what I said today. And it also is a great way for me to just fucking vent and like let some shit go. and it makes me feel like I'm not alone, where it's like now I can, because there was so many times where I said some shit today and I saw both of your faces. You were like, yeah. You're like, yeah, me too, brother. It's like, and I saw that and I'm like, oh yeah, let's, brotherhood, man. It's like fatherhood, let's go, so it's important, man. Find some dads and connect, and especially if you have like guys in your neighborhood or like your local community, it's like, dude, start something. Start like a man. I'll tell you what. If I ever move back to America, which could be a possibility in the future, I feel like it'll probably happen. I'm 100,000% starting some sort of like community dad thing within my local community. Like I will. I know I will. I think there's no way I won't. And I'm going to get every single fucking dad in my neighborhood. And we are going to get together once a week and have like a dad talk or something. Like I'm going to do it. I've already like envisioned this. So it's really important, man. You can find some other guys, in your local community who are like you, like do that. Get coffee every Saturday. There's something like this in Bali. They started, it's called the Brotherhood. So it's like all these guys meet up every Saturday here in Bali. It's like a 200, 300 group person WhatsApp group right now.
Oh, wow.
There will be like 50 dudes at this meeting sometimes in every Saturday. I've been to a few. It's cool, but like it's good to have something like that, So just have someone who can meet up with you, hold you accountable, let you vent and check in with each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you need test subjects for your father bod thing, I
Let's
mean,
go.
we're two heavier dads, so we could use it.
Yo, let's go. We might work something out, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There
We'll
you
chat.
go.
We will definitely chat for sure.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you again. Hopefully, we can have you back on someday, chat again. And thank you for your insight, sir.
Absolutely. Appreciate you
Yeah,
guys, man.
much appreciated.
All right, boys.
Gentlemen, dads, we will see you in the next episode.